morning, YouTube. What is going on? It is Sunday morning here in North Carolina, and it is Mother's Day. I am headed up to RPM Motorsports for two reasons. One, the Tahoe is back together and running. I drove it yesterday with the new transmission. Everything is awesome. I'll give you guys the rundown on that trans when I get to the shop. Number two, valve seals. When I fired the truck up yesterday, it smoked on startup, and the only thing that I can figure is I got a broken valve seal in one of the cylinder heads, because the only time it smokes is right when you start it up, and it has to sit for about 15 minutes in order for it to smoke again on startup. If you shut it off and start it right back up, no smoke, everything's fine. I also have to build another cold air tube for it, but I'm not sure if I'm going to get to that today or not. I'm going to stop and get some breakfast, and then we're going to get to the shop, put some valve seals on the Tahoe real quick, and then I'm going to drive it home, which I'm really excited about. I haven't been able to drive that truck in like 8 weeks, and it was really nice to drive it around yesterday. I probably put 100 miles on it just back and forth goofing around. So like I said, today is Sunday, Mother's Day, so I want to say a very happy Mother's Day to my mom. She's up in Michigan, and I hope she has a wonderful day. I know she'll probably be doing something with my dad and my sister, and maybe some other family members. I wish I could be there to help celebrate, but Jeff has things to do down in North Carolina this weekend. So anyway, let's get up to the shop and get busy. Alright guys, we got the Tahoe in the shop. Weird thing though, it didn't smoke this morning when I started it up, so now I don't know what to do. Every time I fired it up yesterday, it would smoke on startup, which is always a valve seal issue, but it should have smoked this morning and I don't know why it didn't. So, valve seals are cheap. They were like 24 bucks. I might go ahead and replace them anyway, but what I'm going to do first is pull the spark plugs out and see if any of them have oil on them. The transmission is in, the converter is in, all that stuff is working great. I'm really happy with it so far, and I'll just give you guys a quick rundown of the transmission, and I'll try to put a picture of everything that's in it right here. But anyway, what we've got is upgraded clutch packs, a reinforced sun shell, cage 29 element sprag. The biggest things in this is going to be a wide 2/4 band. The 2/4 band is what went bad in the last one. And then we've got a sleeved input drum, a billet overrun piston, and the 5-pinion planetary. That's another big thing with these. Having the 5-pinion planetaries really strengthens them up. And I also went with a Sunux input drum, which is like a good thing to do while you're in there, I guess. But anyway, this is like a level 6 plus from RPM transmissions. And then the converter is a Pro Truck 2800, which is good for the style of supercharger that I have on this truck, and it actually drives really well. It has good street manners. If I lay into the throttle, it stalls right at about 2800, so no complaints there. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. But now that I'm thoroughly confused about why this thing smokes when I fire it up, I'm going to go ahead and pull the spark plugs out of it. Look at those first. Okay, so here are the spark plugs out of the truck. As you can see, they're all got oil on them, except for that one. And I started with this one and I was like, oh, there's a valve seal bad. And I pulled this one and I was like, oh good, no valve seal bad there. But then every other plug has oil on it too. Starting to wonder if I have an oil consumption issue from blow-by, but if I did, every plug would be wet. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm gonna do yet. I think what I might do is put a catch can on it and a valve cover breather, put a new set of plugs in it and drive it again and see what happens. It's weird, you know, normally when you have a valve seal issue, you have one plug that's soaked in oil and you're all good. I have one plug that isn't soaked in oil. So I don't understand why that is, unless that's a problem cylinder with like fuel, you know, like if there's a fueling issue. But definitely all the plugs are oil soaked. I know the motor is solid, so I'm guessing it's from oil consumption. LSAs, like out of a ZL1 or a CTSV, all have oil consumption issues, and the fix for that is normally to put a catch can on. So I think that's what I'm gonna do here, is I'll go ahead and put a catch can on it, put a new set of plugs in it, and I'll drive it for a couple of more days and see what happens before I go ahead and replace valve seals. Because what I should really do if I'm replacing valve seals is put a new set of springs in it too. The reason for that is with the blower, the extra boost on top of the valves, and the cam in it, right now I've got LS3 single valve springs. And here's the issue. Let me grab a couple springs and I'll show you. Alright, so here's a couple valve springs. This is an LSA valve spring, and this is out of like a Winston Cup motor. So you can see there's 3 springs in that spring pack, and this is just a single. So just for illustration purposes, we'll go with this big old spring. So when you're compressing this spring over and over, they get weak over time. So if you break this spring, what's going to happen is the whole spring is going to compress, and what that does is it hangs the valve open. If that happens, your piston can hit your valve and you have big issues. One of the advantages to a dual spring or even a triple spring isn't just seat pressure and how fast it can return the valve closed, but if one of these coils breaks, you still have other coils to help hold the valve up. So you'll notice a misfire, but your valve will never drop and hit your piston. So like I said, I have single valve springs in this. I shouldn't. It's something I should have done when I did the supercharger, but doing this on a budget. And yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a catch can on this thing real quick, put a new set of plugs in it, and I'll drive it today and maybe tomorrow, and we'll see if we still have an issue after that. If we do, then I'll go in and do the valve seals and valve springs. Alright, so here's what we have. This is what we're going to put on the truck real quick. This is a Mike Norris catch can, and basically what it does is there's a line that goes from the valve cover to the blower snout, and that's basically your PCV system, and then there's a breather at the back of that valve cover so it can evacuate all the bad crap out of your crankcase. What I think is happening is it's just sucking it all back into the blower, and it's sitting in the blower, and then when I fire it up, it sucks it down and burns it, and you know, that's where we're getting the oil smoke from. So the catch can is going to help catch all the liquid, and then the vapor will just go back into the engine and get reburned. And I'm also going to put a big breather on this valve cover to help the engine breathe and hopefully work on some of this oil consumption stuff. I also talked to the boss man, Ryan, and we were talking about why one of the plugs is clean, and we both kind of agree that it's an injector issue. So I've got another set of injectors here. I'm just going to switch out the one. There's no need in me switching them all out. And with a new set of plugs, like I said, I'll run it for a couple of days and see where that gets me. So I'm going to get this catch can mounted and plumbed real quick and put the new set of plugs in, put the injector in, and then we're going to be done for the day. Alright, so we've got the catch can mounted here. I actually mounted it to the ice tank, and on the inside I just put some silicone on the washer to help seal water from coming out. This was the easiest place for me to mount it. Normally we mount them to the cylinder head, but as you can see I got a bunch of crap in the way. So one line from the valve cover to the top of the can, and then from the bottom of the can to the snout on the blower. And then what we're going to do is from the back of this valve cover we're going to come to the air cleaner with a 3/8 line, and then I'm also going to put a breather on top of the oil fill cap, and then we're going to throw some spark plugs at it and see what happens. Alright, so I have what I think is the problem injector out, and this is a new one here, and I noticed there's like some discoloration or some sort of weirdness going on at the tip of this injector. You can see the new one is clean. I'm going to pull out another one to see if I have any kind of discoloration or if that nickel plating is chipping off or something. But I'm hoping that's the issue, is why that one plug was clean. Okay, so here's what we've got. This is something temporary I threw on here just so I can have an air filter. I sold the little intake elbow that I made. There's another guy that watches the channel that's doing an LSA swap Tahoe, and he wanted that, and I knew it would be down for a while, so now I got to build another one. But we've got our breather here on our valve cover. Got this line that goes to the back of that valve cover into this air cleaner, and we have our catch can here for PCV. And that's it. I've replaced the injector. I've got new plugs in it. So I'm going to put it on the lift real quick because I think I have a small exhaust leak. I'm going to check that out. And then we're going to go drive this thing. I'm excited. Just can't have anything nice. There's the exhaust leak. The hanger that I've had to re-weld already has rotted through again. Mind you, I'm in North Carolina. Things don't rust. MBRP exhaust will rust in North Carolina. All right guys, so I'm really not supposed to beat on it for 150 miles, so I'll just give a little half throttle getting up to speed going down the road here. So that was 75 right there, half throttle. Shifted about 5,000 RPM. It feels really good. I'm super happy with this new setup. Alright, so everything seems to be good so far. I'm going to get it home, let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then I will fire it back up and see if it smokes or not. Also weird, I don't know if I mentioned before, but when I started it up this morning and pulled into the shop, no smoke. So I'm hoping we just had a faulty injector was causing all of my issues, and it's been replaced now. But I added a catch can just for fun and put new plugs in it. Plugs are cheap. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, comment, like, subscribe, and be ready for more Tahoe videos coming to you soon.